Good morning. We're going to be going through a PowerPoint today. We're starting our exploration on equations. So we're going to be just going through this, going over some vocabulary regarding equations and expressions. I hope you guys had a really wonderful spring break and are ready to go back to the action. So just to run through our vocabulary, so we have an expression, which is a collection of numbers and symbols that express a quantity. That is what you were working on last week. So we have different terms, like we have numeric terms, so they just have numbers. And then we also have variable terms that have variables attached to them. You have equations. So this is something a little new. That's a statement that the values of two expressions are equal to each other. And this relationship is indicated by an equal sign. So that's our sign right here. Okay? And then we also have inverse operation. So an inverse operation is an operation that undoes what was done by a previous operation. And then I will show you a really nice diagram and a couple of slides about these inverse operations. So this is the big idea. The big idea here is to solve, in order to solve an equation, we need to undo the operations that are happening to a variable. What we're doing is we're finding inverse operations to move pieces of the expressions across the equation from one side to the other. Okay, so these are my inverse operations, so they undo each other. So for example, if I'm adding, my inverse is subtraction. 4 plus 6 is 4 plus 2 is 6. If I wanted to figure out any of these pieces, I can just subtract one or the other to find it. So 6 minus 4 is 2, so that's the amount on the right, and 6 minus 2 is 4, and that's the amount on the left. Okay, and then vice versa. This is with a bigger example. And then my inverse operation of multiplication is division. So I have, for example, if I have 3 times 4 equals 12, if I wanted to undo that, if I divide 12 by the amount on the left, which is the 3, I'll get the amount on the right, which is the 4. If I divide the 12 by the 4, which is the amount on the left on this expression, I'll get the amount on the right in that expression, which is down there. Okay. And then I have a long division example down here. I have 213 times 3 is 639. If I divide my solution, my product, by either of these numbers, I'll get the other one. So 639 divided by 3 is 213. 639 divided by 213 is also 3. This is the golden rule of algebra. What you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other side of the equation. So we could think about solving equations like a scale. We start balance, and then we also have to end balance. So scales are supposed to be orderly, balanced, even. So what we're doing to one side of the scale, so for example, if I take something out of this scale, it's going to make this scale go down. This will make this one go up. I want to make sure that they're balanced, so I want to put pieces or take out. If I take out from one scale, I'm going to take out from the other scale. If I put into one scale, I'm going to put into the other scale. And then that way my scale will stay balanced. Okay, so here's some examples. You're going to be asked to do 2 different types of problems today. You're going to be asked to do identification problems, which I'm just asking you, are these equations or are these expressions? The easiest way to figure that out is that expressions do not have equal signs. So if an equation has an equal sign or a statement has an equal sign, then it is automatically an equation. So for example, if I have 6c plus 7 equals 10, my solution is that is an equation, and then my explanation is there's an equal sign in the statement. Bang, done. Okay, now the second one here, I have 5x plus 8x plus 8. This is something you can combine like terms with, but it is an expression because it does not have an equal sign. Okay, now we're going to go through a couple of examples of solving one-step equations, which is what you're going to be asked to do for this assignment. So for example, this is the first one. I have x plus 10 equals 12. So my first step is to identify the operation in the equation. The operation that's happening here is addition. So the second step here is identifying the opposite operation. So the opposite operation of addition is subtraction. You could always zoom back to our table if you're having a little bit of a hard time figuring out the inverse operations, they're right here in this PowerPoint. You can always scoot back to them. We're going to go back. Okay. Oop, too far. Okay, there we go. So we're going to identify the opposite operation. The next thing you're going to do is perform the operation to both sides of the equation. That's the big important piece here. We have to do to both sides of the equation. So then the last thing we're going to do is identify the solution. I'm going to do step 3 and step 4 down here so that way you can see it. I'm going to rewrite my expression. My equation, excuse me. Then I'm going to find the opposite operation, which is subtraction. I'm going to subtract this plus 10 on both sides. So I have 10 minus 10, 12 minus 10. 12 minus 10 gives me 2. What's going to happen here is we are going to actually have to eliminate this. We have a plus 10 minus 10. Plus 10 minus 10 is 0. So we have a 0 happening right here. So we don't have to write a 0. If I have something like x plus 0, I don't have to write that. I just have to write x. So now I have 12 minus 10 equals 2. Okay? And now let's go on to the next one. So I have it down there. Ta-da. Okay. My next example here, I have x minus 14 equals 8. We're going to identify the operation, which is subtraction. We're going to identify the opposite operation, which is addition, because I have a subtraction here. So my opposite is addition. We're going to perform the operations to both sides of the equation. And then we're going to identify the solution. And then I'm going to show you the step 3 and 4. It's going to be down here. Okay. So I have x minus 14 is 8. Identify the opposite operation, which is addition. I'm going to add 14 to both sides. What's going to happen here is we're going to end up having a 0 term. We have a minus 14, a plus 14. And then we're going to deal with this side over here, where I have x is equal to 14 plus 8 is 22. Okay, I'm pretty sure this answer down here is going to be wrong. I didn't change it. Oh, no, it is. It's right there. You go. Yay, 22. Okay, now we're going to do a multiplication and division example. So first is multiplying. So I have 6 times x is 18. Step 1 is you're going to identify the operation, which is my multiplication. If we have two numbers being attached to each other like this, so I have a variable and then a number attached to it, that's a coefficient and a variable together, then we have a multiplying statement. That. And the next thing is identify the opposite operation, which is division. And then we're going to perform the operations to both sides and then identify a solution. And then step 3 and 4, we're going to go down here just because I don't have space. So I have 6 times x equals 18. We're going to divide both sides, okay, by 6. So that way we're going to end up having a elimination term here. 6 divided by 6 is 1. Now, if I have 1 times x, that's just x, so I don't have to write that. And I end up just getting x is equal to 3. 18 divided by 6 is 3. And last but not least is my last example. If I have x divided by 2, so this is just a division example. X divided by 2 is 4. We're going to identify the operation, which is division. We're going to identify the opposite operation, which is multiplication. And then you're going to perform the operation on both sides of the equation. So what I'm doing here is I'm multiplying on both sides. So I have x divided by 2 is 4. I'm going to multiply by 2 on both sides. That's what this dot here is. It's 2 times this. And what's going to happen here is I'm going to have another elimination. I have 2 times a half, because this is a half here. X divided by 2 is a half. 2 times a half is 1. So I don't need to write that. I could just kind of leave it alone. So now I just have x. And then I do this side. I do the right side of the equation. I have 4 times 2, which gives me 8. And that's my final answer. Please feel free to reach out with any questions, comments, concerns, issues. We're available and here for you. I hope you guys are having a great day and being safe.